Carl Jung used to say that when you don't know what you want, anything will do. And because of that, anything can control you. Maybe you've felt this before, even without realizing it. That strange feeling of living a life that doesn't feel like yours, of accepting things that don't do you any good, but that you tolerate, simply because you don't know exactly what you want instead. You wake up, do what you have to do, keep your appointments, maintain appearances, but deep down something is missing. It's like walking down a road without knowing the destination, and because you don't know where you're going, you let others choose the path for you. Jung warned us that the inner void isn't just uncomfortable, it's a real threat. Because when we lack clarity about what we seek, we end up becoming puppets of ideas, of people, of entire systems. And the most dangerous part? Most of us think we're choosing, that we're in control, that we're free. But what is freedom if everything you do is just reacting to other people's desires? What is autonomy if you've never stopped to listen to your deepest desire, the one that comes from your soul, not from fear, habit, or comparison? The paradox Jung gives us is this: the less you know what you want, the more you obey without realizing it. You say yes to things you never wanted. You accept relationships that make you smaller. You follow paths that were never dreamed by you. And all of this begins the moment we stop asking ourselves, what truly makes sense to me? In this video, we're going to walk through this labyrinth together. We'll expose the problem, uncover the hidden roots, understand how it traps us, until we discover how to break the cycle and finally reclaim the power over our own story. But first, we need to see the invisible enemy, because it hides where you least expect, in the silence of your unnamed desires. It's curious to think that the greatest enemy of our freedom isn't the rules imposed from the outside, but the confusion that lives within us. Carl Jung understood this well. He didn't see the human being as just a body with thoughts, but as an entire universe full of symbols, shadows, and desires we often don't know how to name. When you don't know what you want, it's not simply because you lack information or opportunity. The hole is much deeper. Many times you don't know what you want because you were never truly allowed to want. Since childhood, we've been taught to want what pleases others, what works, what feels safe. We want to be approved. We want to be good children, good partners, good professionals. But what about being who we truly are? Where does that fit in the equation? Jung called this the process of adaptation. It's the moment we create a persona, a social mask, to be accepted by the world. This mask isn't evil. It protects us, organizes us, helps us function in society. But the problem begins when it becomes all that we are. Have you ever noticed how, in certain moments, it feels like you're just playing a role? Acting as if you're on stage, following a script you never wrote. That's the effect of the dominant persona. And the danger is that when you identify too much with that mask, you stop listening to another part of yourself, the one that desires in silence, the one that dreams of things that don't fit into the mold, the one that feels but doesn't know how to explain it. And when that part is ignored, it doesn't go away. It hides in the shadows. And that's where Jung's second key concept comes in, the shadow. Everything you've repressed, denied, or hidden from yourself goes into that dark place. And what is in the shadow controls you without your awareness. Maybe that's why you stay in relationships that hurt you. Maybe that's why you sabotage yourself just when things are about to get better. Maybe that's why you say you want to change, but can't take the first step. Desire that is not recognized becomes a destructive force, and the world takes advantage of that. Advertising takes advantage. Ideologies take advantage. Toxic relationships take advantage. Everything and everyone starts telling you what you should want, how you should live, what you should dream. And because you don't know what you truly want, you accept. Not because you're weak, but because you're disconnected from yourself. Jung said that true evil is not external wickedness, but internal ignorance. And maybe that's why the greatest risk of a life without conscious desire is becoming a stranger inside your own existence. But if that's the problem, how does it show up in our daily lives? How does it quietly change the way we think, love, and work without us noticing? That's what we're about to reveal now. Maybe you have already noticed this happening with people close to you, or even with yourself. That feeling of living on autopilot, of making choices without really knowing why, of feeling tired even when you haven't done anything physically hard. This is the price of a life led by desires that are not your own. When you don't know what you want, you don't just give up your freedom. You give away your energy, your direction, your soul. And the scariest part is that all of this happens in silence. No one notices. Because on the outside, you keep going. You work, pay bills, talk to others, post on social media. But inside, there is an absence, a hole, an emptiness that sometimes shows up as anxiety, procrastination, low self-esteem, or even physical illnesses. Jung warned us about this in a subtle but powerful way. The unconscious does not forgive being abandoned. If you don't turn to it, it will turn against you. And it starts to show itself through symptoms. Life begins to give signs, small ones at first, then stronger. Relationships that don't last, jobs that drain you, goals that don't make any sense, crises that seem to come out of nowhere, but nothing comes from nowhere. When desire is left aside for too long, it falls asleep, and what takes its place is conditioning. You start wanting what others want, dreaming of what culture says is right, repeating patterns you don't even know where they came from. This is what we call cognitive bias. Your mind starts filtering reality not by truth, but by habit. You convince yourself that this is normal, that this is just how it is, that there is no other way. And this belief is dangerous because it steals our curiosity. And without curiosity, there is no change. You begin to think small, doubt your own intuition, fear any change because the comfort of the known feels safer than the courage to seek something new. This is the cycle of the invisible prison. You don't see the bars, but they are there, made of fear, conditioning, and conformity. And the world applauds this prison, because the more you fit in, the more predictable you become, more controllable, easier to manage. Jung said that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life, and we will call that destiny. But what if that destiny isn't really yours? What if you're just living the story others expected of you? The good news is that there is a way out, but it's not comfortable. It requires rebellion, and that is exactly what we are going to talk about now. How to break this cycle and start writing, for the first time, your own story. Don't be fooled. Waking up to yourself is a silent revolution, but a fierce one. Because when you start asking yourself, is this what I really want, or what I was taught to want? Something inside you moves. It's like a hidden door, locked for years, slowly opening. And the light coming through that crack is not comfortable. It is strong, revealing, and unsettling, but also freeing. Carl Jung believed that the true path to freedom was not about following rules, nor breaking all of them carelessly. It was about integration, looking at everything you tried to hide, your desires, your contradictions, your pains, your strengths, and saying, "This is also me." Jung called this process individuation, and it is anything but simple. It is the opposite of what society expects. While the world insists that we be copies of an ideal model, the path of individuation invites us to be whole, complete, unique. But how does it start? It starts the moment you stop running from your shadow. The shadow, according to Jung, is everything you did not want to be. Everything repressed, denied, or judged as wrong. But the shadow is not just darkness. It also holds forgotten gifts, creative impulses, wild strengths. The problem is not having it. The problem is pretending it does not exist. When you start talking with your shadow instead of fighting it, you begin real transformation. It's not about removing parts of yourself, but about placing them in the right place, with awareness. And little by little, you become less easy to control, less influenced, more connected. You begin to notice when you are acting to please others and when you are acting from truth. You start saying no without guilt, saying yes without fear, trusting your intuitions, taking responsibility for your path. This is the rebellion, not against the outside world, but against abandoning yourself. And this is where real stories begin. People who dared to break free from suffocating family legacies because they heard an inner voice saying, "This is not my path." People who changed jobs, countries, beliefs, not by impulse, but with clarity. People who dived into their own shadows, faced traumas, gave new meaning to pain, and came out more whole. These were not easy choices, but they were conscious choices, and that changes everything. Because when you start choosing yourself, the world may resist, but your soul finally breathes. Now that we understand how to break the cycle, there is one last piece left, the most important, the most transforming. Because behind all this, there is a truth few are ready to hear. But when you understand it, nothing is ever the same again. Let's go together to it. The time has come for the final revelation. You know that moment when everything makes sense, but not in a logical way. More like your heart understands before your mind. This is where we arrive, at the quietest and most powerful point of this whole journey. Carl Jung left us one of the most challenging statements we have ever read. Everyone's calling is to become who they truly are. It might seem simple at first, but think carefully. How many of us really know who we are? How many have had the courage to take off all the masks, let go of all expectations, and look at themselves naked, without tricks? The final truth is this: when you don't know what you want, it's not just that you become easy to manipulate. You become absent from yourself. You stop living in your own body, your own soul. You become a character, written by writers who don't even know your name. And why does this happen? Because it is hard, painful, almost unbearable to look at yourself without lies, to see the chaos, to see the greatness, to see the broken pieces, and at the same time see the hidden power inside them. But when you face this task, when you choose to stop running away, something changes inside you. You don't need to chase things anymore. You begin to attract them. Because your energy is no longer scattered, trying to please, fit in, be accepted. It is focused, centered, whole. And you can feel it. You don't need to prove who you are. You just are. Simply, without effort, without noise. This is the greatest achievement, discovering that everything you were looking for outside was always inside. That the direction you needed would not come from others, nor from the world, nor from rules, but from silence. Your silence. There lives the self, as Jung said, the center, the source, the truth of who you are, beyond masks, beyond persona, beyond shadow. What is eternal inside you? And from there, everything changes. The way you look at life, how you relate to others, how you deal with loss, failure, uncertainty. You stop being controlled by fear and start being guided by awareness. You realize wanting something is no longer about ambition, but about alignment, about being at peace with what you do, what you choose, what you say yes to. You become your own center of gravity. And the most beautiful part? When this happens, the world begins to rearrange around you. Not because it got easier, but because now you are the one in charge. This is the calling. This is the invitation. Not to follow a path someone made for you, but to build your own, with truth, courage, and soul. Because, at the end of the day, the question was never, what should I do with my life? The question has always been, who do I refuse to keep being, so I can finally become who I am. If this message touched your heart in some way, if it made you think, remember who you really are, or even notice something that was hidden inside you, then I warmly invite you to subscribe to the channel. This helps a lot to keep sharing reflections that awaken the soul. If you liked the video, leave your like. It's a simple but powerful way to say, this message was worth it. And if you want, share in the comments. What touched you the most? What made you stop and think? I would love to read about your experience. And who knows, your words might light something in someone else too. We are together on this journey.